Oh, very happy Veterans Day to all of those of you who serve and keep us free. We're very grateful for that.
And for all of you who have to stay home with your kids because they're not in school today.
Exactly. Hello. I got 2 teenage girls at home. This is not going to be fun today. But it is what it is. I don't understand why it's on a Tuesday. Why am I the only one that thought when we have Veterans Day, it seems to be just a day added to the end of the week or the beginning of the week instead of Tuesday?
No, Veterans Day is always 11/11.
Yeah, you're right. There you go.
You know, what when World War I ended, I believe, correct?
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Yep. And
Armistice
so it's
Day or
always that
whatever.
day unless it's on a weekend, then you get the Friday or the Monday. But
Gotcha. Well, a lot of people, I think, took maybe Friday off and definitely took Monday off.
we know one that did.
Yes. Yeah. True. Um, I know a lot of people in my neighborhood served, and I'm probably one of the few that didn't, but I certainly have respect for all of them. I think it's great, and the kids will enjoy the holiday for sure. Um, I was out at One Buck Place for the post-mortem of the Bucks loss, and it was kind of a brutal loss, actually, um, to the New England Patriots, but not much in the way of news in terms of like, are they getting people back? I mean, based on what Todd Bowles said, and we saw Bucky Irving on the sidelines, he looks fine, bouncing around, walking around, and stuff like that. He told us it's his shoulder. They have to determine when he can take a hit. Now, I suppose the doctor will have to be the one to clear him for contact, but at some point, they might want to bump him around a little bit. Got no sense that he's going to practice this week. Same with Chris Godwin. Got no sense that he's going to be prepared to practice this week. Don't know about Reddick, and Ben Bredesen was having an MRI. My guess is that might take some time to heal up whatever it is he has there. So I don't think this is the week that the cavalry is coming to Buffalo per se, which means they've got to buckle down. They've got to buckle down and play better ball and play better ball on offense, where I'm pretty sure the quarterback is hurt, with Baker Mayfield. He hasn't run the ball one time in 3 games. Told CBS he was 50% after the last game that he played before the bye week. And, and Bowles kind of agreed that with Baker's assessment that, you know, they didn't have a killer instinct. He said we didn't in this game because he said it felt like we were still on the bye, and that's the thing that you want to guard against. These guys definitely needed to try to get healthier, needed a rest, needed a mental break, all that stuff. But if there's one thing Todd Bowles doesn't know what to do about, it's how to prepare a team coming off the bye, because he is now 2-6 if you can include his record with the New York Jets. So 1-3 here in Tampa Bay now, coming after the bye. So and his decision was, as soon as that game ended, where they played New Orleans, he basically said, "See you guys, in a week or 10 days," and let them go. There wasn't a walkthrough. There wasn't a watch film on Monday. It was nothing. And when I asked him about it, because they haven't had success doing it his way, he just said, "Look, there's really was only one day that I could have had them anyway, and we felt it'd be better for them to rest up than to come in here for one day." So they didn't, and they were flat, and that's what Bowles warned them against. They didn't come out that way. They came out and ripped down the field in 6 plays and, went like 60, 65 yards for a touchdown. But after that, they certainly weren't sharp, and that kind of thing is going to happen. But there's no. I guess what's difficult with this team is that there's no sense that it's going to get better in these next few weeks, and that's when they really need the replacements, because going to Buffalo after they lost to Miami, is Buffalo an unbeatable team? No. Frankly, they just proved that they can be beaten. Now it's going to be up there, not going to be snowing like it was around much of the United States, including Buffalo. Supposed to be in the high 40s, maybe, I think, rainy perhaps. But all in all, as cold weather trips goes, not anything that should really get to them that bad, other than the Bills and the Buffalo crowd. So that part is good. But yeah, they're kind of licking their wounds, man, and this team has to kind of find itself in a hurry with the pieces that they have and play better complementary football because they're not good. They're not explosive enough. They're not explosive enough to win a game on offense like they did, scoring a bunch of points. And they're not dominant enough on defense to keep a team out of the end zone. If they're getting turnovers, like they did in New Orleans, then that's the best thing you could say about them as a defense. If they're not, then it's going to be a struggle, and that's sort of where they are. And I don't until they get some players, I don't see it changing very much. Now you can play better, that's the goal. You can always play better and not make some of the mistakes you made in that game. But it's clear that all they have is all they got right now, and I don't know. I'm surprised that Bucky's been out this long. I think his shoulder is a bigger issue, clearly, than his foot was, because he seems to be bouncing around and walking well. They're both running, so you wonder, like, if it was like a shoulder that popped out of socket, and they've since, of course, repaired it, but it's prone to come out again. Um, and so instead of 4 weeks, it's now turned into 6 weeks, maybe going on 7 weeks. And Bucky Irving is what they need. And frankly, I asked about Sean Taylor, Sean Taylor. I asked about Sean Tucker. It'd be nice if they had Taylor. I asked about Sean Tucker, who averaged about almost 6 yards a carry. And if you lose Bucky Irving, wouldn't it make sense to use a guy like Tucker, who's a little bit more like Bucky? And Bowles shot it down and said he's nothing like Bucky. Like, well, he is kind of smallish, and he has the ability to make people miss, which I don't see Rashad do very often. Plus, he has that little bit of burst when you get him to the open field. But he did acknowledge that, yeah, maybe he's earned a few more snaps or whatever. But no changes to the lineup at all.
Did I hear correctly that Tucker was the first running back all year to get 50 yards against the Patriots defense?
You did. And
they ran
carries? It against the number one rushing defense. They not allowed anybody with 50 carries or 50 yards. He did it in just 9 carries. And they, as a team, they got like 113 yards on the ground, which is great against the number one rush defense.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, that's the product. I mean, 6 yards a carry was what Tucker got, or close, 5'8", 5'9", whatever it was.
5'9", yeah.
And we've said this for now 2 years. We'd like to see him get more. Like, when he's had opportunities, he's looked good.
Yeah.
Like, is he better than Bucky Irving? No. But Bucky's not there now. Like, why isn't he getting more carries? Does it change up to Rashad White as well? Because they're very different backs. So I hope that, as it goes forward and seeing the success he had against the number one run defense, that he'll get more opportunities this week as well.
Well, and as it turns out, Buffalo's really bad against the run. They allowed A-Chain and those guys to run all over them there. Their defense is vulnerable. So if you want to keep the ball out of Josh Allen's hands, this is the game that you put it on your offensive line. Now, I don't know who's playing guard, but those guys were awful. I went back and looked at that 3rd and 4, 4th and 4. After you get an incredible interception by Tyke Smith, who's just, he's been the most dominant player probably on their defense, other than maybe Carlton Davis, who they take out. But Tyke Smith makes that improbable interception, because any kind of score there, much less a touchdown, probably ends your day. And they go down and drive it inside the 40, and you got 3rd and 4 and then 4th and 4. Baker misses the throw to Otten. If he puts it on him, it's probably a first down. And then 4th and 4 was just a jailbreak. It's like, they're bringing pressure. And it wasn't like it was a bonsai blitz with all 11 guys. It was, maybe 5, and then 6 joined in when the running back didn't go out. But they didn't pick it up. Graham Barton, if you turn on the tape, is still sitting there waiting to find someone to block. It's like, yo, man, take any of them. There's like 6 or 7 guys coming. Just hit somebody. And that's when Baker, of course, got tangled, and he tried to flip it over his shoulder. And if Rashad White does what he's supposed to do and realize that, if I get out here on the flat, I'm going to be wide open for a first down, but he's late release and he gets caught up in the wash a little bit. And then Baker almost, makes a Houdini like play, but it's incomplete. So, it's going to continue to be a slog, and we all know it. They didn't do anything in the trade deadline. They didn't help their receiving core. They didn't help their offensive line. And Todd Bowles is pretty consistent, just saying, got to coach better, got to play better. Well, yeah, you do. But this is what's happened every year. And I know schedule is part of it. But when every year you lose 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 6 after a good start, you got to really check yourself. You got to really figure out how this team's being prepared. And they didn't look that prepared the other day. And, you know, like Baker said, what happens in practice, man, you got to translate to a game. But that's where they are. And they've got 2 tough ones coming up. And even if they lose those, they still have a great shot to win this division. I mean, look, you come home and you got, division games against New Orleans.
Well, you
You've
still play
got
Carolina twice, and that's the
you got
team behind
Carolina
you.
twice in the last 3 weeks, which could be the decisive series, right? That could really matter. But you still got the Cardinals at home, who aren't very good. You got to go to Miami, and we just saw them beat the Bills. So I wouldn't say that's a layup necessarily. But New Orleans at home, Atlanta at home, Carolina twice in the last 3 weeks. That'll decide it. And I still think they could win 12 games, 11, 12 games, which will win the NFC South again. And that's basically what you need to do just to make it to the postseason. I think high seeds and things like that probably aren't going to be in their future. Um, there's a lot of decent teams in the NFC. Maybe three of them in the NFC North. With Detroit and Green Bay and now Chicago. Chicago has the same record as the Bucks do, I believe. They've won like 4 in a row. So it's going to get interesting, man, with all the teams out west and everybody vying for position. But the one thing I know that is that the Bucks should win this division, even with the injuries they have. And if they get guys back, then we can talk about what they do in the postseason. But it is what it is, man. We'll see who really is available come Wednesday. But no such encouraging words from Todd Bowles about his fallen guys, and maybe they get them back for the stretch run and the division games, and they go on that run and win 7-8 in a row, and they're the hottest team entering the playoffs. But long way to go until then. All right, we got other stuff to talk about, including there was a firing in the National Football League. Brian Daboll got a copy of the home game with the New York Giants. Who could be their next coach? First, get on down to Breitling Boutique, International Plaza Mall. That's where you're going to find the beautiful Swiss watches from the Breitling Company. They've been doing it for over 140 years. They've been in International Plaza Mall now for more than 5 years. Go to the center of the mall, second floor. That's where you're going to find the Breitling Boutique. Great customer service. They're used to dealing with professional athletes and celebrities. They're going to treat you like one, too. Go in there, have a drink, find out about these beautiful watches for the men. The Navatimers, the Chronomats, women's watches, sports watches that are durable and beautiful, and she can choose from an array of different colored wristbands. And while supplies last, they are celebrating the NFL's 104th year anniversary with 32 different team watches. There were a couple on display every day. The other day when I was in the mall, one was the Buccaneers team watch. On the face of the watch is the team colors, the logo. These things are just phenomenal. You have to believe it. You have to see it to believe it. You're going to want one. And it's a collector's item for all kinds of NFL fans. It's Breitling Boutique, International Plaza Mall. When you go, make sure you let them know that you heard about it right here on Sports Day Tampa Bay. Right, I mentioned there was a firing in the NFL. Brian Daboll sent packing. Unusual for teams to really, many teams anyway, to fire their head coach in the middle of the season. But, man, his record is abysmal. And I think I know why they got rid of him now.
Why is that?
Because he's not protecting Jackson Dart.
So,
period. He's out there. I mean, he's trying to win games, and
right.
Dart is trying to win games, and Dart is now prone to several concussions. Remember, he's the guy that tried to rip him out of the blue tent when he's under concussion protocol. I think he got one the other day as well.
Yep, his fourth one this year.
Yeah, these are just not like smart runs by him. And I think the fear is, if I'm guessing, in addition to his crappy record, which is, awful, but in addition to that, I just think they feel like Daboll's going to continue to coach and try to win games at all costs to keep his job. And we have to protect this guy a little bit more from himself. And so, they appointed Mike Kafka, who used to be with the Bucs years ago as a player, their offensive coordinator. I think he is to be their interim head coach. But there must be a feeling that with Daboll, he just didn't have, he had his own interests at heart more so than they did the franchise, I suppose, if that's true.
I think there may be part of that, although medical
Record's
stuff
bad.
like putting Dart back in the game after he hit his head and then he came back in for 2 plays and then was eventually taken out.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know if it was the spotter or whatever else.
Where's the independent neurologist in that?
But like Daboll's, outside of going in the tent, which was awful, but like, the coach is told the quarterback can play or can't. Like, he's not making an evaluation on the sideline. You've got too many other
That's
things
true,
going on.
but he's calling plays.
He's calling the plays, but he was, I believe he was fired, and I listened to a little WFAN today, just to kind of hear what they were saying. But the fan base was lost on him. Probably wanted him gone last year. They've lost 4 leads on the road of more than 10 points in the fourth quarter this year.
Yeah, they don't have to finish a game. That's right.
They're 2-8 or whatever it is. They could be 5-4 or 6-4. Like,
well, I think he's gone 5-10 2 straight years to start.
Right.
Start the season. So,
but with Jackson Dart getting another concussion, that's all probably part of it. I'm guessing the Giants were probably mad that he went in the tent in the first place, and they fined $300,000 or whatever. That all that stuff adds up. But
yeah,
but the fan base there is still ticked that Shane is still the GM. Like,
well,
they want a whole clean house.
And that's, as they say, a new broom sweeps clean. To me, okay, and you remember the famous clip where, the owner of the Giants is in there and they're trading Saquon, or they're not trading, but they're not re-signing Saquon Barkley. They're trading Daniel Jones, and and he's a little dubious as it is, but then he's like, I don't want to see Barkley end up in Philly, and that's exactly where Barkley ends up, and they win a Super Bowl with the guy. So then it's Daniel Jones. Like, I think that Shane has done some nice things with the draft. Their defensive line's as good as anybody's in football. They've drafted some guys well, but if you're gonna get rid of the head coach, what I don't like is these teams, they'll make these changes and then they'll keep the GM, and then the next year the GM gets fired and the new GM wants to hire a new coach, and here we go again. Then now the guy's had 2 coaches in 4 years.
Well, that's the thing. If you're going to, if you want to change GMs, it's got to be now.
You got to marry him up with a new head coach,
or at the end of the year before you hire your coach.
Yeah, don't you think those 2 guys need to come in together?
Yeah, whether it's you hire the GM first or the coach, or it's the Kyle Shanahan method, who hire the coach,
whoever's stronger, right?
He went and found the GM of John Lynch, and and it's worked out there. You can do it either way, but
yeah,
if you're thinking of making the move on Joe and Shane, then you got to do it now, because if you hire a new coach and then next year you decide to get rid of the GM, like now the new GM probably wants his own coach.
He probably wants his own guy, and you could have 3 systems in 4 years for Jackson Dart. And that's how you kill a quarterback.
As is, what is it, the fourth coach in 8 years that the Giants have fired?
Yeah, no, it's bad. For a team that was known for stability. Now, the names, of course, the candidates start trickling out pretty quickly. Who do you suppose I've heard more? I've heard there's 2 guys I've heard today.
I'll tell you what, man.
I'll tell you what, man. I'm looking for a job. You know what I mean? I like to coach Jackson Dart. Throw some darts, man.
Dart's a little young for the quarterbacks that Gruden likes. He doesn't like those, rookies and second-year guys.
That's true. That's true. He wants somebody that's been to a Super Bowl. Also, how about one? It's just on to Cincinnati. How about Bill Belichick? How about Dollar Bill, Chapel Bill? History with the Giants.
Well, I was going to say, he's got
D coordinator.
He's got some Super Bowl rings from being a D
sure
coordinator.
Does. He sure does, man. And, the Rooney family may like, not the Rooney family, the Mara family may like, yep. Another great owner. The Mara family may like that, that history that he has with him.
Well, if you're looking to have a defense that stops teams in the fourth quarter, Belichick's a good defensive coach.
He is. I thought of another one, and I don't know if he'll get a second chance this soon. It's not this soon, because one of the guys that he came in with did get a second chance recently. What do you think of Josh McDaniels right now with the job he's doing with a young quarterback,
I wonder if McDaniels is just a good offensive coordinator and not a good head coach material.
I think that's very possible. I think it's probably more likely than not. But does he deserve another bite of the apple? if you got a young quarterback. Now, again, I think you're right. Different position. You're hiring him to be a head coach. That's different than what he's doing in New England right now.
Yeah. Not all coordinators can be good head coaches, and
Nope.
to be honest, not all head coaches can be great coordinators either.
That's true too.
It's a completely different job.
Absolutely, it is.
I mean, sometimes the coaches coordinate, like Todd Bowles.
Some call plays, but and
offensively, but like you don't have like John Harbaugh was never a defensive or offensive coordinator. He was a special teams coach.
Yeah, special teams coach. That's right.
Yeah, you don't have to necessarily. They're not the same jobs. Just because you're a really good offense coordinator doesn't mean you're going to be a really good head coach.
No. But I don't see Gruden. I mean, I could be wrong. I always say have the press conference. I don't know that he's going to be, in New York and embracing all that or being embraced. Not sure who they'll get.
Well, I'm not sure the Mara family would embrace that.
Me either. Like you still got to have the press conference. There's still some questions to be answered. I don't know where the lawsuit stands. Like all that is going to be factored in there. But I did hear a lot of people today on area shows not from Tampa that were dropping John's name. And then, I'm sure there's a lot of people lobbying for John and like John, and he's on Barstool every day, so he can talk about it. But
it was with Dave Portnoy at the Bucs game on Sunday.
That was interesting, huh?
Yeah, with the Washington Capitals team who stayed around after the game on Saturday.
Yeah, what was that? So are they going to Miami? They just had a day off?
No. So they play in Carolina tonight.
Ah, okay.
So they chose to stay in Tampa for a couple days instead of going to Raleigh.
That was pretty cool that they were all there.
Yeah, so they stayed. I think they even practiced on Monday in Tampa and then flew to Raleigh Monday. So they'll play tonight now.
Oh, okay.
In Raleigh. So they just, when you're on the road, you can either go to the next city.
If you have a couple
days, if you have a couple days off, you can either make your way to the next city or stay where you were and just wait to go. I mean, either way, you're on the road.
Typically, when they're on the road and they play a game till, say, wherever they're at, 11:30 their time, they don't just hop on the bus and go to the next city, do they?
Most of the time they do. It kind of depends. Like,
really?
Well, first of all, is it a back-to-back? Then you have to.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's true.
But a lot of times it's, depending on how long the flight is too, right?
Yeah,
so if it's an hour and a half flight, like go ahead and get to your next city and then maybe you have the next day off. So then you have a full day off instead of having to wake up and then go.
Yeah. Get your sleep patterns normal. And
then sometimes it may depend on where you're at too. Like I said, if you're in Tampa and your next game's 2 days later in Raleigh, would you rather have the off day in Tampa or in Raleigh?
Mm-hmm.
So you can kind of pick which city you want to stay in, basically.
Yeah. Makes sense.
And then there's been times where the Lightning earlier this season, for instance, had a 4-game road trip. It was a game, Monday and Tuesday, and then they didn't have another one until Friday and Saturday. They actually came home after the Tuesday night game, and then Thursday went back on the road. So it was a 4-game road. It was a 4-game road trip, but they actually got to spend a day and a half at home in the middle of it because it was all on the East Coast. It was like Washington and Boston, or it was Boston, Washington, then they came home and went to Detroit, Columbus. So they weren't long flights, 2.5 hours, whatever.
Right.
It wasn't like you were going to Seattle or something coming back. But, just you kind of, the teams basically look at the schedules and kind of decide, hey, where would we like to spend? If Vegas is one of the cities in the middle and you have days before or after, the teams like to stay there.
Yeah. How's that work out for them? Didn't Vegas have this great home record for a while?
The first year, any team, the first season they played, any team that had a day off before
playing,
they didn't fly in. They didn't have. It wasn't the second half of back-to-back where the team got in at 3 a.m. the night before.
Right.
Any team that did that did not win. It's called the Vegas flu.
Vegas flu.
Yeah.
You know who else benefited from that? Was Miami in the NBA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Big time.
Well, this year the Lightning, and they went out to Vegas and they won in Vegas. But after the game, they stayed in Vegas and didn't fly out till the next morning back home to Tampa.
Oh, wow.
So instead of being in a red eye all night.
Yeah, it's tough. You getting in 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, it was a 10 p.m. Eastern game. So it would have been, getting in at 4, 5, 6 in the morning.
If you're not playing.
They stayed that night and flew back the next day. Now, I have no idea what condition the players, maybe, and they won the game. So maybe they didn't party hard the night before. They did it after the game and then just slept it off on the way home. Not sure.
That would be the better routine. Yeah.
Yes.
But I can remember I was in Miami one time, and I forget. I think would have been Philadelphia was down there visiting them, and they had a game the next night, but they were already in town. And Matt Geiger, who played at Countryside High School and of course played in the NBA and played for the 76ers, we're out at some club and we're on a rooftop someplace, and it's like 2 in the morning. He's there with 2 or 3 other 76er players. We're like, okay, this is how it's done. This is why the Heat are having such a good time. But it is an advantage sometimes. Those guys,
Well, we were talking before the podcast. I'm telling a story from 25 years ago now, but there was a game. The Bengals were playing the Broncos on a Sunday afternoon, middle of the season, whatever.
Right.
And the Broncos were good. The Bengals were not.
Mm-hmm.
And the Broncos should have rolled over the Bengals, except Corey Dillon went off for 278 yards, which set the rushing mark in the NFL at that point. Set the NFL's record all time at that point. Now it's been broken, and you're like, how could the Bengals do that to the Broncos? Well, I saw most of the Broncos defense out at the bar at 3 a.m. at the waterfront in Cincinnati because I was there too.
You were there too, yeah. Wow.
So that defense was operating a little slow that morning.
Yep. And you hear those stories, and I've been part of. I've covered teams that have had that happen as well, and I'm still confused. Like even back then, which was many years ago for me, why teams players were ever allowed to get out, and the answer is they probably weren't allowed, but they did it anyway. The Raiders one time in like '96 when Dungy had taken over, and Allstott was sort of their offense, and he was punishing, and the Raiders were. There was a prize fight that night. There was like a boxing match that was well known, but then they went to let's say a gentleman's club off the causeway in Clearwater, close to the airport, and they were watching the fight, and they were up Eastern time. Of course, they're on Pacific time in their body clocks, but they were up Eastern time till like 3 or 4 in the morning, and then they go out there in the hot sun, and it was pretty damn hot that day. They used to let us onto the field as a media with about 4 minutes to go in the game, which was the best part of the day for me because, man, when you're up close and you feel the contact and you see the plays, and a lot of games are decided at the end. And so it's kind of exciting down there. But, went down there on the field and Allstott late in the game in the fourth quarter just running over these guys. They started making business decisions. They were in no shape to play 4 quarters of football. And by the time the big boy kept hitting them, they bailed. So, I don't know what the rules are. I mean, I think they do a little better job of bed checking and things like that. They make them come down for breakfast and all kinds of stuff to try and check up on them. But
that's why hockey has morning skates.
True. That's right.
It was
That's
really
the only
about
reason,
making sure
right?
the players were in decent shape and didn't party too hard the night before and
account for all of them.
Yeah.
And I've always thought, I never covered hockey. I always thought, well, that would be annoying. You got to go to a morning skate, then you got to come back to the game.
Yep.
Like, what the heck, man?
No, that was really instituted, 50 years ago to make sure the players weren't getting too hammered the night before because
one guy does it, they're all going to do it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like somebody decided one day that even though our team is playing at home, we're going to lock our players in a hotel locally. And then everybody said, that's a good idea. We should do that too.
Yep.
Copycat league, man. Finally, did I see this right? John Cooper does this thing for charity where he takes kids fishing and everything.
Yeah, the whole team is out there for Coop's Catch every year.
Rough day on the seas, man. It just the calendar kind of got them a little bit with the cold front blowing in.
Well, you pick a day, November 10th in Tampa. You're like, oh, it'd be great weather.
Should be perfect, right?
Yeah,
what could go wrong?
Yeah, it should be sunny and 70 degrees, and let's go fishing.
Except that the cold front's blowing through, so the wind was really howling, and that wind was chilly. Not as bad as it's going to be on Tuesday, but nonetheless, he gets celebrities to come in. Man, Charles Barkley is a friend of Cooper now?
Oh, yeah, they've been good friends. I mean, first of all, Barkley's a huge hockey fan.
I found this out last year when he was talking about his friends with Cooper.
Yep.
And I didn't really know that he was that into hockey until last year.
Yep, he's a huge hockey fan, but they've become friends over the last 8 to 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So like when the playoffs come, Barkley's always talking about the Lightning on the the TNT NBA show.
Yeah.
And that. So yeah, they've been friends. So he was in last year. Wayne Gretzky was in for the event.
Right.
This year, Charles Barkley was. So it raises a ton of money to go to pediatric cancer stuff through Cooper's Foundation. It's an annual event. The players love it. they're all out there fishing the competition. I believe
Yeah.
J.J. Moser won it this year.
Did he?
Yep.
They paid a price because those seas were a little rough. I mean, we're talking salt water here. They're not on a lake.
Yep.
They're out there kind of in the Gulf of America, I guess you'd call it. Gulf of Mexico. But yeah, Big Chuck, he cracks me up, man. He's just so funny. I love that show. That's still the best. Is that not, you've seen a lot of shows on TV, and is that not still the best studio show?
It's definitely, yeah, probably. I mean, it's very different. It's very different than most of the others. So,
but it's just their chemistry. They've been together so long, and him and Shaq and Kenny. And
I love shows that, and I've been in the business for a while and helped produce and direct some, but shows that chemistry is so vital and important.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the staff has to have, or the host, whatever you want to call them, have to have the chemistry.
Yeah.
But 2, everyone's got a well-defined role.
Yeah. Yeah. And they play their role.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And everyone knows what their role is on the show. And they don't take themselves too seriously either.
Right.
They're serious about what
they're talking about working, but they're not. Yeah. They can take a joke and be self-deprecating and all that.
But like everyone on that show knows their role. I used to listen a lot to. I haven't listened in a long time, and the show's changed a lot in characters. But Dan Le Batard's show,
Stugatz,
10 years ago, was phenomenal. The way every character on the show, or host, or whatever you want to call them, had their role.
Yep.
And they knew their role, and they stayed in their lane.
They stayed in their lane. Yep.
All about making good content. It does. It's not fake. I don't mean that way, but there's a lot of shows where you'll get producers or certain people on the show trying to make a name for themselves and try to show they're smarter than the host, or whatever it is. Like, hey, I got a chance to talk now. I'm gonna try to make someone look bad, or this, shows that everyone kind of knows what their role is. It doesn't mean it's scripted. Doesn't mean that you know what they're going to say per se, but just like Stugatz in like the Le Batard show. You're supposed to hate Dan Le Batard and love Stugatz, even though Le Batard's the name on the show.
Great Cody would come in there from Miami Herald that I know. Yeah.
Right. But Guillermo would have a role, and everyone on the show, when Roy and everyone chimed in, they had their role, like what their kind of character guidelines were, and so that's what works. It's it's why we watch television. You watch a show like The Office or whatever your favorite show. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Ted Lasso, whatever. Like, every character has a role to play.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't get to just go, well, I'm going to change who my character is today and do something different. Like,
I'm going to be the bad guy.
And granted, those are scripted, but the actors get into the roles of what their character is. And that's how they make it so believable. They're not just reading lines off of paper. They kind of become that character, that person.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the shows do. But yeah, the Inside the NBA, which ESPN now airs, smart move by ESPN, by the way.
It was
to do that. But I think that show is spectacular. Like, I'm not a huge NBA fan, but I'll watch that show.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's good. Well, we certainly know our roles, and our roles are to tell you that you need to get on down to Breitling Boutique, International Plaza Mall. Check out the beautiful watches. NFL team watches are available while supplies last. Center of the mall, second floor. Great customer service. Please let them know you heard about it on Sports Day Tampa Bay. The Bucs are off today. They'll be back on Wednesday to try to begin preparations for their game at Buffalo, God willing, and not too much snow on the weekend. Not forecast. Supposed to be around 50 degrees and maybe a little bit cloudy. We'll see. What else we got? The Lightning, are they back in town?
They'll practice today. They host the Rangers on Wednesday.
Rangers on Wednesday. Okay, there you go. One of the hottest teams in hockey.
That's a national TNT game. So,
as well it should be. Lightning are on a roll, and that's a good thing. All right. Well, again, thanks for listening, everybody. For Steve Versnick, I'm Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times. Have a great day.